Hi, welcome to my channel, Mysterious Things, where I tell you about an unsolved mystery and then we try to solve it, or at least give some insight to it through tarot. Today I'm going to tell you about a case that is currently in the news that may be being solved at this very moment. A case, or rather a series of cases, that have remained unsolved until now. In the past 6 years, mysterious things have been happening in the small town of Hampton, South Carolina. 5 unsolved deaths, 1 attempted murder, alleged police corruption and embezzlement and drug addiction, and they all have one thing in common: the name Murdaugh. Who are the Murdaughs, and why do I think this might be solved soon? Join me to discuss this, and we'll see what the cards have to say. Hampton, South Carolina is a small town of 2,800 people. The Hampton City website states, Hampton offers a gentle climate that lends itself to outdoor recreation of all types: golf, tennis, fishing, shrimping, crabbing, gardening, boating, beachcombing, or just lying in the sun. With the bonus of Charleston and Hilton Head Island, South Carolina, as well as Savannah, Georgia, located within an hour-and-a-half drive from there, it's a small but central town for those wanting a quiet, peaceful life, but access to city resources and events. But in the last 6 years, it's been anything but peaceful in this close-knit village. There have been 5 unsolved and unresolved deaths starting in 2015, then 2018, 2019, and again in June of this year, 2021. Hampton has had more than its share. Something happens when tragedy strikes close to home. People become less carefree. They spend more time with their families. They cluck their tongues and muse quietly to each other how such a thing could happen in their neighborhood, and if someone they know, their neighbors in fact, could be involved. And then slowly, ever so slowly, they go back to normal. But when another tragedy strikes, the fear comes more quickly and doubles the effects, and normal just doesn't seem quite so normal anymore. Just think about the small 2,800 person town of Hampton, having tragedy upon tragedy piled at their door. It's bad enough when the perpetrator is found, but the unsolved mysteries and speculations and questions as to who could be next is enough to freeze your life in one place. It's enough for the community to collectively hold their breath, waiting for some final outcome. And this is where we find Hampton, waiting, hoping for a breakthrough and an answer, a resolution. And after 5 years, it might just be on their doorstep. But let's start with the central character in this story, and it's not one of the deceased. He is 53-year-old Richard Alexander Murdaugh, or Alex as he likes to be called, and until recently he served part-time as a prosecutor for the 14th Judicial Circuit and a personal injury lawyer with his family's law firm, Peters, Murdaugh, Parker, Elsroth, and Dietrich, PMPED, which was founded in 1910 by Randolph Murdaugh, Alex's grandfather. Alex's father, uncle, and brother have all been prosecutors within it, and for a total of, get this, 87 years. 87 years of service in one office by the same family is the longest in the history of the United States. 87 years of being one of the most powerful, prestigious, and wealthy families in the area. And that creates a long list of potential enemies, from former employees to any number of people on the wrong end of a lawsuit or prosecution. and some would say just on the wrong side of the Murdaughs. The state newspaper of Columbia noted in 2019 that the Murdaughs helped to put thousands of people in prison and sent more than a dozen to death row, and that year after year, the family law firm in Hampton has won millions of dollars in civil lawsuits, relentlessly pursuing those at fault in fatal collisions. The Murdaughs played hardball, using all the tools at their disposal, and they played to win. So it's a small town, and you say probably everyone knows each other, so it would not be unusual for Alex Murdaugh to have crossed paths with any or all of these victims. But most of these victims are too close for comfort, and now I will explain why. Just a disclaimer here, my story is created from news stories and witness statements and depositions, which may or may not be exactly the way things went down. So I'm going to put it out right here that this is a dramatization and that these are alleged facts, so don't sue me, okay? So let's start with our first unsolved death, Stephen Smith. Stephen was a 19-year-old gay man who was found dead just before 4 a.m. on July 8th, 2015, in the middle of Sandy Run Road in Hampton County, South Carolina. After several searches, no tire marks or debris from the vehicle, his own car was found 3 miles away with a gas cap off. His keys were in his pocket. Stephen's head was bruised and misshapen by blunt force, and his shoulder was partially dislocated, but he had no other major injuries. He did have defensive wounds on his hands, and that's important. His mother, Sandra Smith, said the cause of her son's death was unclear because of conflicting reports by law enforcement. First, she said, they told her he was shot in the head. Then it turned out he was a hit and run. And then he was beat up, so the story just kept changing over and over. What Sandra said next was astonishing. Sandra said her son had told her he was in a relationship with one of the members of a prominent family in Hampton. And although he didn't tell her which one, she had her suspicions. Rumors abound about Stephen and that he was involved with Buster, the older Murdaugh brother. But Connor Cook stated Paul was supposedly involved with the guy. That's Alec Murdaugh's younger son, not his older son, Buster. And that was the guy, that got beat up in the road. Well, I looked up Stephen on the murderdata.org database, and his cause of death there says undetermined circumstances. Now, there were quickly a lot of rumors surrounding Stephen's death, which were never proven. But recently his case has been reopened. We'll get into that a little later. So, how was he connected to Alex? He was friends and classmates with Alex's son, Buster, and they played sports together. In fact, Alex was their soccer coach. Also, Stephen's father, before he passed away, had a case involving Randy Murdaugh, Alex's brother. And for some unknown reason, Randy showed up at the scene of Stephen's death. Death number 2. The next death is of 57-year-old Gloria Satterfield on February 26, 2018. She was the Murdaugh's housekeeper, and she died after she allegedly tripped and fell at the Hampton, South Carolina home of the Murdaughs. An unnamed source said that only Paul and Gloria were home at the time of her fall, and claimed that Paul had pushed her. Born on February 8th in Hampton, she loved tennis and kids, and her favorite color was purple. She had, according to her family, a wonderful laugh and an outgoing personality. Alex Murdaugh was the only defendant named in the insurance settlement. His insurance company reportedly gave $500,000 for personal liability in Gloria's wrongful death suit, and $5,000 for medical payment for the accident. However, the court documents did not note where the accident took place and why Alex was named in the death of Satterfield, even though he was not at home. So I looked up what it would take for a wrongful death case to go forward. And it said, to prove that your loved one was a victim of a wrongful death, you have to show that the defendant owed your family member a duty of care, that the defendant breached that duty, and that your relative died as a result of that breach. So was this just a straightforward insurance claim that Alex, as the owner of the property where she tripped and fell, was liable? Or was there something more nefarious? So I doubt if we'll ever know. Death number 3, 2019. It's at this point we meet Paul Murdaugh, Alex's younger son. This kid is a piece of work. The epitome of a spoiled rich kid. Paul was well known for his quick temper and mean attitude, particularly when he was drunk. According to his friends, Paul had an alter ego version that they called Timmy. They said his eyes would get as white as $50 without blinking. And he would hold his hands out and do erratic movements with his arms when he was in Timmy mode. He was an angry drunk too, so you could always tell when he became Timmy. It's a different name because he turns into a different person completely. A totally different person, said one of Paul's friends. And somebody will say, all right, here comes Timmy. We gotta go. On February 23rd, 2019, Paul and 5 of his friends, all under 21, decide to go to an oyster roast on Pauke Island and then spend the night at the Murdaughs river home about 20 miles from Hampton. About 5 p.m., Paul, who was 20 at the time, bought some beer and stashed it in a cooler in his dad's boat, which didn't have working lights. That meant the boaters had to take turns holding a flashlight to give them some visibility while they made their way to the party. So they hung out at the party for about 5 hours. One of the boaters said everybody at the party was talking about how we shouldn't be driving the boat back. Paul was drunk when we left the party, but he was still determined to drive. At some point, he decided he wanted to get a shot from Luther's, a bar in downtown Beaufort. 4 of the boaters, including Mallory Beach and her boyfriend Anthony Cook, had not wanted to go to Beaufort, and they just wanted to go home. But Paul insisted, and so he drove the boat through the darkness to the Beaufort waterfront. So only Paul and Connor went into the bar. The rest waited near the dock. They were done for the night and ready to go home. Connor paid for 2 rounds of shots, and after less than 10 minutes, they left the bar. And when the pair returned, they all piled on the boat for the final leg home. Paul was visibly drunk, and it was obvious to the other boaters that it wasn't safe for him to be driving. After they left the dock in Beaufort, Paul started driving extremely slowly. He took his clothes off while in the boat, and the temperature was about 59 degrees. And one of them commented that he was acting like he was on drugs and making a fool out of himself. The others on the boat pled with Paul to let Anthony, the least inebriated of them all, drive the boat. But Paul wouldn't hear of it. Paul and Connor were up near the wheel, and at several times Connor had to grab the wheel while Paul paced around and shouted at and spit on and slapped his girlfriend. Connor's girlfriend was sitting in the front of the boat, and Anthony Cook and his girlfriend Mallory were in the rear. As the 6 friends left Beaufort, an argument is alleged to have broken out on the boat, and tensions were already boiling within that group because of the late hour and Paul's slow and erratic driving, sometimes even driving in circles, and it was irritated this already frustrated group. Everybody was trying to talk Paul into letting Anthony drive the boat, but Paul refused. Anthony and Paul were fighting because Mallory was telling Anthony that she was scared, and Paul said something to Mallory like, "Shut up," and Anthony didn't like that. And then there was one final argument. In the back of the boat, Mallory and Anthony Cook had had enough, and Mallory yelled at Paul, "Stop!" He turned and he pointed to her, and Anthony could tell he was about to say something and told him not to make that mistake. And he stared at him for a second, and he went to the steering wheel, and that's when the boat really took off. Paul accelerated the boat through the dark waterway like a petulant child, and Anthony slid to the floor of the boat and put Mallory on his lap. They were scared. Seconds later, the boat struck the piling at Archer's Creek Bridge. Anthony and Mallory were catapulted into the water. Anthony lost hold of Mallory, and when he surfaced, he couldn't find her. They spent 20 minutes or so looking for her. Someone called 911, and Alex Murdaugh, remember him, Paul's father? He arrived on the scene before even some police got there and advised them not to consent to a breathalyzer test. And later, Connor Cook said Alex told him that everything was going to be all right. He just needed to keep his mouth shut and tell them he didn't know who was driving. And he's got me. It took them a week to find Mallory's body, taken by the tidal waters and deposited 5 miles away. Paul Murdaugh was charged with 1 count of boating under the influence, resulting in death, and 2 counts of boating under the influence, causing great bodily injury. If convicted, he would face up to 25 years in prison on the first charge, with a minimum of a year behind bars, and up to 15 years in prison with a minimum of 30 days in jail on the 2 bodily injury charges. He pleaded not guilty to all of the charges filed against him. He wasn't fingerprinted, there was no mugshot except one hastily taken in the hallway, and he was released on bail awaiting his trial. Mallory Beach, born April 18, 1999, died February 24, 2019. Mallory was a beautiful girl with a bright future ahead of her. She was an animal lover, a soccer player, and she enjoyed hunting. This did not have to happen. Deaths 4 and 5. And now we get to the 2 final deaths. On June 7th, 2021, around 10 p.m., Alex Murdaugh called 911. This is a recording of his call.
Hampton County 911, where's your emergency?
This is Alex Murdaugh at 4147 Moselle Road. I need the police to answer immediately. My wife and child are just shot badly.
Okay, you said 4147 Moselle Road in Arlington?
Sir?
You said 4147 Moselle Road in Arlington?
Yes, sir. 4147 Moselle Road.
Stay on the line with me, okay? Yes, sir. Stay on the line with me, okay?
Hello?
I'm still here. Stay on the line. I'm still here, okay? Carlton, I have an Alex Murdaugh on the line, caller from 4147 Moselle Road. He's advising that his wife and child was shot. Mr. Murdaugh, go ahead and talk to Carlton.
It's 4147 Moselle Road. I've been up to it now. It's bad.
Okay, and sir, give me the address again.
It's 4147 Moselle Road. I've been up to it now. It's bad.
Okay. Okay, and are they breathing?
No, ma'am.
Okay, and you said it's your wife and your son?
My wife and my son.
Are they in a vehicle?
No, ma'am. They're on the ground out at my kennel.
Okay, and did you see anyone? Okay, is he breathing at all?
No, nobody.
Is she? Okay, do you see anyone in the area?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
What color is your house on the outside? What color is your house on the outside?
It's white. You can't see it from the road.
Okay, is it a house or a mobile home?
It's a house.
Okay, and what is your name?
My name is Alex Murdaugh.
Okay, did you hear anything, or did you come home and find them?
No, ma'am. I've been gone. I just came back.
Okay, and was anyone else supposed to be at your house?
No, ma'am. Please hurry.
We're getting somebody out there to you. Okay, I don't want you to touch them at all. Okay, I don't know if you've already touched them, but I don't want you to touch them just in case they can get any kind of evidence. Okay.
I'd already touched them trying to get to see if they were breathing. Ma'am, I'm going to call. I need to call some of my family.
Okay. Well, do me a favor for me. Whenever you see the officer or the medics, because they're all coming to you.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, he said he had arrived at the family's 1,700-acre Islandton home and found his wife, Maggie, 53, and his son, Paul, 22, fatally shot. This case is under investigation by the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division, called SLED. There have been no arrests, and no suspects have been named in this double homicide. Bump. Just as we were working up a genuine dislike for this little prick Paul and hoping he was going to be held responsible for Mallory's death, he ups and gets killed. What? So what happened? Who could have done this? The coroner said that each was shot multiple times with a different weapon. Time of death is thought to have been between 9 and 9:30. Well, who could have done this? Days before Paul's murder, a lengthy court-ordered mediation session failed to resolve the civil suit brought by Mallory Beach's family. Could her family or friends be involved? Paul had been getting death threats. Paul's ex-girlfriend, Morgan, Mallory's boyfriend, Anthony, his cousin, Connor, Connor's girlfriend, and Mallory's best friend, Miley, have all submitted to SLED's investigative DNA testing, as has Alex Murdaugh. We'll find out if they had anything to do with it. Or was Maggie the intended victim? Was she planning on divorcing Alex? She had just ordered a financial accounting of their assets. Could the Murdaugh family, afraid of ruining their reputation, have killed her or had her killed? And was Paul just an innocent bystander? If you thought Hampton was small, hold on to your hat, because Islandton, only 13 miles away from Hampton, and where the Murdaughs had their hunting lodge, has only about 100 residents. And if you were going to do something shady, like kill your wife and son, I'm not accusing, I'm just saying, then isolated Islandton surrounded by fields and streams, would be the perfect place. But at the time of this murder, according to Alex's phone, his GPS, and his personal sightings, Alex was at his dying father's bedside. Law enforcement sources previously told a local news outlet that Alex told the cops he'd been out shooting that day when he returned to the grim scene. So which was it? But wait, there's more. Just 3 days after these murders on June 10th, Alex's father, Randolph Murdaugh, longtime 14th Circuit solicitor and partner in one of the largest law firms in South Carolina Low Country, died after suffering from extended health problems. He was 81. And the hits just keep on coming, folks, because on June 22nd, SLED announced that it had reopened the case into the death of Stephen Smith. Remember Stephen Smith? He was case number 1. They reopened the case because they found some information that they gathered during the course of the investigation of Paul and Maggie's death that had something to do with Stephen's. On June 25th, more than 2 weeks after the murders of his wife and son, Alex and his son Buster offered a $100,000 reward for information leading to the arrest and conviction of his wife and son's murder. On July 7th, new court documents filed allege a civil conspiracy possibly connecting the law enforcement and members of the Murdaugh family following that fatal 2019 boat crash in Beaufort County. They seem to have had a close and light relationship with law enforcement. August 15th, the current 14th Circuit solicitor, his name's Duffy Stone, recused himself from the homicide case and passed it on to the South Carolina Attorney General's office. Is this common practice, or was there a reason? So things are unraveling quickly in this case, and you can see the panic in the statement from the PMPED, the Murdaughs law firm. Time for the cowardly sharks to cut bait. This statement said, on Friday, September 3rd, Alex Murdaugh resigned from the law firm. He is no longer associated with PMPED in any manner. His resignation came after discovery of PMPED that Alex had misappropriated funds in violation of PMPED standards and policies. Well, that's not the end of the story, because on Saturday, September 4th at 1 p.m., Hampton County Central Dispatch received another 911 call from Alex Murdaugh, who reported that he had just been shot in the head. He said he had a flat tire, and he was changing the flat tire, and a pickup passed him and saw who it was, and then turned around and came back and shot at him multiple times, but only hitting him once and grazing him. However, it was a bullet graze, yet they airlifted him to the hospital. You want to know the crazy thing about this? Investigators have found the knife used to puncture the tires on Alex's car so that he'd have a flat. The knife belonged to Alex. The eldest brother, Randy Murdaugh, issued this statement. I was shocked, just as the rest of my PMPED family, to learn of my brother Alex's drug addiction and stealing of money from the firm. I love my law firm family, and I also love Alex, my brother. While I support him in his recovery, I do not support or condone or excuse his conduct in stealing by manipulating his most trusted relationships. Coincidentally, that day, the Attorney General's office dropped all charges against Paul on the boat accident due to his death. Also, on the 8th, Murdaugh's license to practice law was temporarily suspended. So, where are we? 5 deaths spanning 6 years with not one resolution. A law dynasty on the ropes because of the illegal and irresponsible actions of at least one of its members. Alex is in rehab. The oldest son, Buster, is 100 miles away, keeping his head down and hoping that the ship doesn't roll downhill in his direction. Law enforcement is being accused of corruption and obstruction of justice, and everyone has a theory. Will these cases ever be solved? Or will this just be another HBO movie with no definite conclusion? Let's finally ask the cards. Okay, today I'm going to use the territorial deck. This deck is very interesting. It's full of information, not so many pictures, but the information helps when I'm doing the reading to make sure that I get it right. And this is a very complicated reading, so we're going to use this deck. And if you haven't been to one of my videos before, I'll tell you how I do this. I read 3 cards before the event, 3 cards about the event, and 3 cards on the aftermath of the event. Now, the aftermath of the event that we're going to be talking about is Paul and Maggie's murder. The event we're talking about is Paul and Maggie's, and this is before the event, Paul and Maggie's murder. Before the event, Paul and Maggie's murder. The event itself, the murder itself. Whoa, cards are jumping out all over. The murder itself. Tell me about Paul and Maggie's murder. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Cards coming out everywhere. Whoa, this is, they want to tell me a lot of stuff about the event. Okay, now the aftermath of the event. The aftermath of Paul and Maggie's murder. There's one. The aftermath of Paul and Maggie's murder. And there's the other 2. Okay. Okay, sorry, here we're back again. Technical difficulties and my phone died. So we're all charged back up and plugged back in, and let's go on with the reading. Okay, remember these 3 cards are about what happened before the event. So the first one is the moon, and the moon represents unseen problems and secrets. So there were some secrets and things, fear, negative things that were going on, and these secrets are about to become exposed. When the moon is in the upright position, it would mean that your secrets could be kept, but when it's reversed, they will be exposed. The Page of Pentacles is next. Has to do with ambition and desire and things that money, it's all about money. Welcome, new beginnings, new job, new something coming up about money. So there was something new that was coming out about money that had to do with these secrets. So this is not telling us anything new. We have actually found this out in the readings. Yes, there's something new. Alex Murdaugh is embezzling millions of dollars. And that was a secret that came out about the money. So the before didn't tell us a whole lot new. So let's see what the Hermit has to tell us. The Hermit is about spiritual illumination, a quest for personal truth. I think Alex had this inner voice that he was not listening to. He knew he was in the wrong. He said as much. He said, he'd made bad decisions. And I think he really understood that he was making bad decisions, and he couldn't help himself. He just kept making one bad decision after another. So before the event, he knew this was coming out. He knew it was a bad decision, and that's where he was. Now, the event itself, there are a lot of things going on with this. So let's stop here with the Three of Cups. The Three of Cups is a circle of celebration and friendships and things like that. But it's people that you've lost touch with. These are strong relationships, but you may not be as close as you once were with them. There's also a lot of gossip that goes around about this, so that's what that card means. The Page of Cups, again, we've got cups, 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 and that is something new, emotional immaturity, things that are pulling on your heartstrings that you really, this is your family, things are going wrong. You're not able to make the decisions to help them out. You just see that going downhill. So I think that's where Alex was on that. The Nine of Wands is persistence and courage. Even when things are tough and insurmountable, he felt like he could stand firm. He had his brothers and his father. His father was dying. His things weren't going so well for him at work. His finances were going. His life was kind of a mess. But he felt like he could pull himself out of it. He really felt like he could do it. The Ace of Pentacles, this is about money. This whole thing is about money. It's about this whole web of money that he was embezzling. His wife may be divorcing him, so he's thinking about how he's going to get the money for all of that. And then there was Five of Wands, and he was in conflict. So this does not look like it's an outside person that came in to do this. This looks like it was all family, that his son was causing him. He wanted to look perfect. He wanted to show that he had a lot of money. He wanted to look like he had a lot of money. He wanted to look like he had a great family and that they were close, but they weren't. It was not happening. There was conflict. There was competition. There was tension, rivalry, even with his brothers, because they were doing so well in the business and he wasn't. He was, put out to part-time work. They were keeping him there and alive, but they knew what was going on. They were having a big problem with this. He was burned out, stressed, lots of financial strife, and sadness. I think this was a lot of not just Alex. I don't think Alex may have known or may not have known. He was been told to take care of clean up his mess, take care of his family, take the legacy of his grandfather's company was in his hands, and he was handing it off to this punk kid who was just dragging their name through the mud. And he was told to take care of it. And if he didn't take care of it, they would take care of it. And he didn't know how. He kept making all the wrong decisions. I think Maggie finally figured it out. I don't know if she was actually the target in this. Might talk about that a little later. He was heartbroken. The grief and the remorse and the sadness that he had caused all this to come down on his family, it was unimaginable. I think that he just had nothing. He had nowhere to go. The aftermath of this illness, fear of suffering, avoiding disaster. His tower's upside down. He's trying to avoid. This whole thing was about avoiding ruin and disgrace and upheaval and all that, and all it did was cause it. So it did exactly opposite of what they wanted it to do. But if the family can push this all off on Alex, they wanted to push it all off on Paul, so it looked like Paul did all of this. Then the rest of them could be in the clear. But there are secrets. There's inner turmoil still among the brothers in the business, and this Nine of Swords reverse shows that they want to get rid of that worry, and that's what they were trying to do. The High Priestess, that's their inner voice, their mystery. They wanted some balance. They are still frustrated because it didn't turn out they wanted it to. The Queen of Wands, she's upside down. This did not go as planned. Maybe Alex came home too soon. But there should be some recovery and and he is in rehab, and maybe the truth will come out as he heals. He's not going to be able to hold this in. He was supposed to. This is a family problem. I think I would look to see where those brothers were when this happened. I'm going to pull some other cards here. I want to find out exactly if Maggie was targeted here. Was Maggie Murdaugh targeted in this murder, or was this an accidental death? Was Maggie targeted in this murder? Was Maggie Murdaugh targeted? Maggie Murdaugh was murdered. Was she a target? Or was the target Paul? Was Maggie targeted? No, it was the kid. It was the kid that was targeted. This was a Page of Cups, and the Four of Pentacles. It was all about greed. Tell me about Maggie. Was she there accidentally, or tell me about Maggie? Oh, yeah, somebody wants to tell me about Maggie. Okay, the Five of Cups. They feel bad that Maggie got caught in the middle of this. The Ace of Pentacles. Yeah, she was looking into their money. They didn't like that, but they thought they could deal with Maggie. And the Ace of Cups. The relationship there was between Alex and Maggie was gone. And the Three of Wands. Teamwork for an evil end. So, yeah, more than one. All about money. Maggie got caught up in it somehow. Well, that's my reading. I hope you found it helpful. See you next time. Thank you very much for joining me. Don't forget to like and share. Tell all your friends. And we'll see you next week. Bye-bye. Today's jewelry is an homage to Maggie Murdaugh, who I think may have been innocent in all of this. Maggie is often seen with hoop earrings and a small feminine necklace in many of her photos. And so I'm wearing these beautiful new Anne Klein hoops and a little teardrop necklace for Maggie.